Quick one. If you'd like to support us on our journey to 1,000, please do consider subscribing or following this podcast, wherever it is you're listening to this. Thank you.
I think for anyone that's like trying to find their purpose, I think it's ultimately about just paying attention to your passions. I think it's so easy to see someone else's journey and someone else's professional success and be like, that's what success looks like. That's what I have to do. I have to emulate that. But if you are passionate about collecting bugs, then collect bugs, celebrate it, and find people that also collect bugs and like just do your work there. I just wanted to help. I just wanted to help more women learn about their hair. I started with my focus mainly on young girls, and I just wanted like a world where little girls grew up and thought that their hair in its natural state was beautiful, didn't want straight hair, they just wanted to celebrate their curls. And so for me, it was like, okay, how many mothers can I invite into a space? And also how many spaces can I create where little girls feel comfortable and see themselves and are celebrated? Purpose is something that I've always been really keen on. At some points I was quite frustrated and impatient, like I just want to know what my purpose is, like why am I here? But again, I think it continues to unfold. I thought that all that I cared about was products and hair, which is true, but it's part of a bigger purpose. And I think that's what life's about, like just seeing the constant unfoldment of like different layers of yourself and different layers of the work that you're supposed to do.
Thank you so much for coming onto the 1,000 Voices podcast today, Jamelia. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all good. All good. I can't complain. And yeah, just to, want to let you know, I've let you know just before we start recording, but I really, really appreciate your time this evening. And you're someone who I've been following for a little while now. You know, I've been following the TreasureTress journey and your own personal journey for a while, and I was very, very excited to get you on board. So thank you for coming on. Much appreciated.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's all good. It's all good. Anytime. All right. So just to start off, with people who might not know who you are, do you mind giving us a little introduction?
Sure. So my name's Jamelia Donaldson. I'm the founder of TreasureTress, which is Europe's largest monthly product discovery box for women and girls with naturally kinky curly hair or those with naturally kinky curly hair. As a byproduct of TreasureTress, I founded the Teen Experience with Simone Powderly, which is a series of personal development workshops for Black and mixed race teen girls. I always think it's funny when people say, introduce yourself, who are you? And people go right into their career. So aside from career, I'm a beauty obsessed individual who loves traveling, loves eating, loves spending time with my friends, and just loves embarking on like new adventurous experiences.
Looking at your profile before this interview, I can definitely see that it seems like you love traveling. You know, where have you been? How many countries have you been to?
Oh, I don't actually know how many, but I'm also a sucker for returning to the same country several times. One country being America. 2019, I went there at least 4 times a year.
Oh, wow.
2019, I went there at least 4 times a year for like business and to see family. But yeah, my favorite places to travel have to be the States, the Caribbean, and I really like the Middle East.
Pretty cool. All right, sounds good. So what I like to do with the interviews is I always like to take it back, you know, set a bit of a foundation. So just to begin with, do you mind just talking to us about your background, where you grew up, and what that was like?
Sure. So I come from Caribbean parents. Both of my parents are Jamaican. Grew up in North London. So my parents were born in the UK. They both went back to Jamaica to be schooled, and then came back here and started a family together. My mum is my mum is now part retired, but she was a head teacher, and her mum was a head teacher. So I always say that I come from like a strong lineage of like really powerful and well-educated women. And yeah, I grew up in North London, was born and raised in Edmonton, then moved to Enfield a bit later. But kind of like ordinary childhood. I grew up in a single parent household, although I've maintained a really good relationship with my dad all the way throughout my life. But the key themes and the key like priorities of my childhood were always education and travel. I remember on a Saturday morning, like speaking to my school friends in secondary school, and they'd wake up at like 11 a.m. and I would be so jealous because sleeping until 11 a.m. was never a luxury I had. Like I had to be up cleaning, Then I had to go to piano lesson. Then I had to go to violin lesson. And then when I got back, my friends were just waking up. And I was like, what is going on?
Wow.
But now I look back and I'm like, do you know what? I actually appreciate that because it taught me to just start my day early from really early on. And it just gave me valuable experiences. So I would say an ordinary childhood, not at all a privileged childhood, but I think my mum just prioritized where she wanted to spend money and where she didn't. And for her, spending money on me and my brothers, so I've got two brothers. One's my older brother, one's my younger brother. I grew up with my older brother. Um, Her priority for me and my older brother was just education, life experiences. So if we wanted like new trainers, new tracksuits, unless it was a special occasion or we were going on holiday, we were not getting it.
Mm.
Instead, she was investing the money in like piano, gymnastics, drama, like literally everything you can think of. I think I gave it a try at least once in my childhood.
Yeah. But do you think that's good then? That
Yeah.
emphasis on experience over material things, I guess.
Absolutely. That's something that I'm going to carry through. If you had asked me when I was a child if I would have done that, I probably would have said no.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it's just really important because how do you know what you like until you know what you don't like? I think a lot of the time we can look at something from afar and say like, oh no, I don't like that. But if you've never tried it, within reason, of course, if
Yeah,
you've never tried it, then how do you really know? And yeah, I think it just leads to you or helps you become a more open-minded person as opposed to just limiting yourself and limiting your beliefs based on what you think you will and will not like or what you will and will not be good at. So yeah, I think it teaches you how to learn new skills quite quickly, but also make decisions for yourself based on your own experience.
for sure, for sure. I definitely agree. And then if we're going to get there in a sec, but I know you went to stay in New York for a bit when you're studying, and there's
Hmm.
a book I read. I've forgotten the name of it, but the guy talks about how important it is to. He talks specifically about living in other countries and experiencing other cultures and that sort of thing,
Oh,
and
okay.
talks about how important it is because it expands your thinking. And there was like a study that he was quoting or something like that, and people who had lived abroad in other countries and cultures that were very different to where they grew up. So let's say, for example, I'm in the UK and I lived in like Asia, for example, and it's very,
Mm.
very different. People like that tend to have more expansive thinking and,
Mm.
very generally speaking, tend to make better managers, better leaders, and progress faster in their careers than people who haven't had that kind of experience. But yeah, it's a very interesting book, and I definitely agree with that. I think it expands your thinking, actually.
Yeah, send me
Right.
that book when you come across the title again. But that sounds interesting and
Yeah, yeah, for
yeah,
sure. I'll
I
check it
believe
out.
that
It's, it's,
wholeheartedly.
it's on my Kindle. I'll check it out. I'll send it over to you for sure.
Please do.
So, when you were younger, what were your early career ambitions?
I had a lot of them. I think my first ambition was to be a choreographer because I used to love dance, and then a hairdresser, and then like I think that must have been like 8, 9 years old. I wanted to be a hairdresser. Shared that with my
Mm,
mum, and she was like, "You're great at doing hair, and you know it's lovely. It's something that you can do on the side, but it's not something that I would recommend that you do for a career. Like you need to go into a field that earns a bit more money."
yeah.
So I was like, "Okay." Killed my dreams, and then she was like, "Well, you're great at arguing. Why don't you consider a career in law?" And I was like, "Okay, like whatever." So then
Mm,
I doubled down on my academics and I actually really, really wanted to become a lawyer at that point. But sadly, we'll probably get into it a bit later. But sadly, I didn't hit the grade that I needed to study law at university. And so I was faced with a dilemma of one, either changing the university that I went to or changing my degree. And I decided to change my degree because I was really set on going to Birmingham and going to Aston University. So I stuck with that plan to a certain degree, but I didn't quite become the lawyer that I thought I wanted to be. But I don't think that law would have suited me very well now.
yeah, yeah. It's all good. It's all good. I guess things have worked out, gone down a different path. Things have worked out however they've worked out.
Yeah.
So all right, let's talk about the university experience then. So you didn't do the law,
No.
and if we fast forward a bit, actually, yeah. So you're doing business and international relations. I might be
Yeah.
that was it basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And you've done a year abroad, or you've done a month in Beijing, and then you've done some time in New York as well. So I
Mhm.
want to talk about that New York experience in particular, actually.
Mhm.
How important do you feel that experience was for you? One in and actually, if we relate this back to what we're talking about experiences and having that kind of experience from abroad, and because I've looked into your profile and everything, and I know that you've gone there, you've seen what you've seen, and come back and brought it back over here. But on first of all, on two levels, on a business level, how
Mm-hmm.
important do you think that New York stay was? And secondly, on a personal level, what kind of impact did that have on you?
Oh, New York is like, yeah, I just think it was a life-changing experience for me because there was no real reason why I wanted to go to New York. I don't know what it was, but something was just like, not to be like woo-woo, but something
Yeah.
was really pulling me towards that city. Like everyone else was applying for jobs in London, in City of London, and I was like, I actually don't care about that. Like I don't care how much they pay. I just need to be in New York. And one of my really close friends, who was also in my year at university, and she also had to undertake a placement year. She was like, "Jam, I'm with you. Like, let's just go to New York." So personally, I think it taught me a really incredible lesson about just trusting your intuition. And like, I didn't have really any expectations from New York. I didn't know who I wanted to meet. I didn't go out there like, I want to meet this person, this person, this person, and I want to come back with a business idea. Like, that was not even in my train of thought anywhere.
Mm,
I just knew that I really wanted to go to New York. Didn't know why, but I was going to figure it out. And then from a business perspective, New York, time and time again, just taught me really key business lessons and just helped me form my vision for TreasureTress. So I went during university, and then I went again when I was working in corporate. I got moved to their New York office. And then that year allowed me to actually move within the States and attend natural hair shows all across the country. And that really helped me form my vision for one, how big the natural hair community is, two, how crucial it is as a Black woman to have community and sisterhood like that, and then three, like what the possibilities were and the way that brands show up for Black women in the US. And it gave me a really high expectation. And when I came back to the UK and it wasn't being met, I think it gave me a really good benchmark to compare what we were having to experience versus what was capable. And that bar was raised so high. And I think I've just continued to always just demand from brands that they allow Black British women to have that same beauty experience as African American women, because it's done. I've seen it time and time again. I've been to Essence several times. I've been to pretty much all of the hair shows. I can see what's capable. And it's just about having the right conversations with the right people and, yeah, just making enough noise so that Black British women aren't overlooked the way that we have been for so long.
mm. Yeah. Okay. And then you just spoke there about you went to New York when you was working in the corporate world, and you went to
Mm-hmm.
live there for a bit, and you traveled around the States and everything like that. So when we're talking about working in the corporate world and
Yeah.
also starting a business at the same time, so I know what it's like working in the corporate world. You work crazy hours sometimes. You work in nuts hours,
Yes.
um, and trying to do a business on the side of that is nuts. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's no time. Like, there's literally a massive lack of
There's
time.
none.
Yeah, literally. Like, how did you even find the time, like, to start a business and to scale a business when you were working at the same time?
There was no time, so you just had to make the time. Um, yeah, I was working at the time. I was on the grad scheme. I was on the rotational program, so you were with a different team. I think it was for like 6 months. And at the time of like really going all in on TreasureTress, I was on the portfolio compliance team. I almost forgot then. I was on the portfolio compliance team, and that required like getting into the office for 7 and then working a 12-hour shift, ending at 7, and then handing over to the next time zone. So that was probably like, if there was ever going to be a challenge of finding time and making time, that was going to be it. But for me, I just found extra hours in the day. Like I would wake up super early, anywhere between 4 and 5, to work on TreasureTress before I started getting ready to go to work. As soon as I got back from work, I would eat food, then start working on TreasureTress and work on TT till like 2 a.m., getting very little sleep in between. But it was just something that I really, really wanted to do and was quite um, obsessed with. And I think I was fortunate because I had the support of my now husband, then boyfriend, who was like really big on like, start your own business, you can do this. um Thankfully he was a tech guy, so he was like, we can build the website, like you can actually do it. So I think having like that support system and also having like my own drive of being like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I don't know how I'm gonna run both, but let me try and let me see how long I can do it for. And I always say that it actually wasn't my goal to take TreasureTress full time. I thought it would be so lovely to like have a full time job and have like a passion project slash business on the side. but TreasureTress became so demanding that I had no choice but to sacrifice one thing. And at the time, I was like 23, and I was like, there's not much for me to lose here. So let me go all in with TreasureTress, see what happens. Worst case scenario, I'll do a U-turn, but ultimately, I'll maintain really good relationships with my team in corporate should I need to do a complete reverse.
Mm. And it must have been a massive passion project for you, because if you work in 7 to 7 and then work on this on the side, like most, you come after from 7. I mean, you're probably not going to get home until 8 or something like that. You're going to be shattered. Must be a massive passion project. And also, you spoke about how your then boyfriend, now husband, was encouraging you at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what were, because when it comes to business and that, we see like the glitz and glamour on socials, on TV or whatever, and we see people who look like they're winning. I mean, of course they are winning, but we see like we see
Yeah.
loads of smiles and all of that. We don't see the grind until 2 a.m. and that at all.
No.
And you don't see the level of sacrifice that goes into starting a business like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, so with you being in a relationship at the time, having family, having friends,
Mm-hmm.
all of that, what's the reality like when you're trying to start a business, but at the same time you're trying to maintain all of these different relationships?
Yeah. It's a challenge. I think ultimately, I don't know. I don't want to say like, oh, I'm this super lucky person, even though I would really like to
Yeah.
be. But I think I'm quite fortunate in that my friends know me well. So I have always been someone that has tunnel vision. So even when we go back to like year 9, when I'm one of the youngest in my group of friends, so everyone had already had like their big birthdays, and everyone was like, Jamelia, what are you doing for your birthday? And I was like, oh, absolutely nothing. I've got exams. Like, I'm focusing on my exams. Don't call me, don't text me. Like, I literally, if they came around my house, I would continue doing my work. Like,
Mm,
they know that once I'm locked in on something, it's nothing personal. I'm just like really, really focused on it. And with TT, it was no different. I think the good thing that the good thing was that unlike my schoolwork, GCSEs, IB, whatever, they couldn't help me with that. But with TT, they could actually help me with it. So even when I look back at like early videos and photos, it's my friends that are helping me run the events. It's my friends that are like greeting guests at events. It's my friends that are helping me set up events. And my mum's always in my corner, cheering me on. And then your question about being in a relationship and like managing that as well as building a business. I think I was fortunate in that, again, it goes back to like long pre-existing relationships. So we'd been friends since we were like 14. At the time of building TreasureTress, I was like early 20s, so we'd known each other for a while. I think I was also fortunate because he was building his own business as well. So I think there was just this
mm,
mutual understanding that like we're just going to do what we've got to do to build what we want to build. And yeah, not to say that there weren't complaints or like date nights were not a thing at all. Like, who had money for date
mm.
nights when you're putting all of your money into your business?
Yeah.
Like, who's also got the time or energy for date night when, again, you're putting everything into your business? So, of course, things were sacrificed, but I don't know. I kind of just understood that from my childhood that you do have to sacrifice some things in order to gain something else. And one of my best friends always says that there is a price of everything. Like, everything costs something, even if it's not monetary, it's time, it's energy. Um, so I think I just had that understanding, and I think we both had that understanding that okay, something's got to give, but we would just have a mutual understanding that this is like where the focus is right now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And yeah, I agree with what you're saying. There's a cost for everything. Like, nothing in life necessarily comes free. Even if you think it's free, there's a cost in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
Um, and then I can even with like 1,000 voices. So because I'm married as well. Well, quite newly married, and
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. And I'm similar to you in a sense where I'm very tunnel visioned. When I'm on something, I'm on it. Like, I'm working on it.
When's your
And
birthday? Not to go woo woo again.
February.
Oh, okay.
Right. What did you think I was?
I thought you was going to be a Taurus.
Nah, Aquarius.
Hmm.
Aquarius, yeah. Aquarius are big dreamers and big thinkers, and I think I'm definitely like that. Big thinker, big dreamer. And when I've got that vision in my head, I'm like, that's it. I'm
Mm,
working towards, and I can be very, very tunnel visioned. And what helped me actually was that, because you know what helped me is that being the actual communication with my wife. So
yeah.
properly communicating.
Yeah.
Um, and now we're at a stage here where it's like, although I've started this up, she helps me a hell of a lot with what we're doing, and I don't know if it's the same with you and your husband at the time, but then when she's helping and tapping into the vision as well, I've explained the vision, I've articulated it, she helps me a hell of a lot with everything that we do, 1,000 voices. It doesn't necessarily feel like, I mean, obviously you do sacrifice somewhat here and there, but because we're working it together, it doesn't cause friction like that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if it's the same, if that was the same with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the benefit of not only like having that support system, but communicating. And I can't say that my communication's always been the best, but I think ultimately there's a quiet confidence that comes when you know that there's people in your corner regardless.
For real.
And I think like you can find that in friendships, you can find that in family, you can find it in romantic relationships. It can come from a variety of different places. But I think that like that quiet confidence is the thing that carries you through and lets you know that like regardless you're good. Like
Yeah,
regardless you'll get back up and regardless you'll find a way.
for real. I want to talk about community building. Yeah. So
Hmm.
when you started up TreasureTress,
Yeah.
you first of all started by building a community, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm just wondering, when it comes to community building, um, how important was cultivating that community when you first started? And also, what advice would you have for other people who are trying to build communities around businesses that they're starting up?
Yeah, I think community, I don't think it was even intentional. I think for me, it's always just like, okay, what's the need? How can I serve, and what would be of service and of value to other people? And I think that's the most important thing. I don't feel like it's possible to really build a business and a brand without a community. Otherwise, like, who's supporting you? Who's
Mm,
vouching for you? Who's talking about you? Who's spreading the news of your business via word of mouth? Like, we all really, really depend on community now. I think then I just wanted to help. Like, I just wanted to help more women learn about their hair. I started with my focus mainly on young girls, and I just wanted like a world where little girls grew up and thought that their hair in its natural state was beautiful, didn't want straight hair, they just wanted to celebrate their curls. And so for me, it was like, okay, how many mothers can I invite into a space? And also, how many spaces can I create where little girls feel comfortable and see themselves and are celebrated? Ultimately, community is about service. It shouldn't always, although as a business owner you're always going to be thinking, okay, what's the ROI, like how's this benefiting my business, how's this raising brand awareness? But if you come from a place of service, I think your community will grow a lot faster than you would expect, and there'll be people in your corner vouching for you that are not your friends and family, who just see your passion to serve and just appreciate it and see you. And I think that that can really, really carry you.
So with Treasure Chest, then when you started up, and I suppose until now, it was about helping women and little girls to celebrate their natural hair.
Yeah, so I have always had natural hair throughout the whole of my life, but I got to an age in my teens where I was like, I don't want to wear my hair in its natural state. It's childish. I want straight hair. My mum was like, you can't relax your hair because if you relax your hair, it will fall out. It's far too fine.
Mhm,
And I said, okay. So I couldn't relax my hair. So I used to like straighten it every 2 weeks. Then went to a hairdresser and she was like, why don't you just wear your hair in its natural state? And I thought, no way, I cannot. I will look like a 10-year-old.
mhm.
Um, but then I like hopped on YouTube and started looking up natural hairstyles, and then stumbled across the natural hair community on YouTube. And that for me was like a huge eye opener to the fact that, wow, like Black women can grow their hair long. Black women can have really full and healthy hair. Our hair doesn't stop growing at a certain length. Like they're actually, like we can be our own hair goals. So when I found that out for myself, I started telling that my friends, and they stopped using heat so much in their hair, started embracing their natural hair texture a bit more. And then I was connecting with more women like that. But I just thought like it would have been so useful for me at a younger age to have this experience and have this outlook whereby I know that my hair's popping, I know that my hair's beautiful, I know how to take care of it. And I just wanted everyone to have that experience. And then I think my time abroad just showed me how much of a like immediate magnet hair is when you're trying to connect Black women. So I always say that if there's two Black women sitting next to each other that don't know each other, the conversation may not start with hair, but we will always find ourselves talking about hair at some point. Um, and I know that for sure because even this weekend I went to a Nike event, and I was like just running next to this girl, and immediately the first thing that we spoke about was hair. And then I
Mm.
was like sitting next to another girl, and she turned around, she's like, oh, I like your braids. And it's just like Black women just connect over hair. So for me, I knew that not only is there opportunity to educate, but there's also opportunity to introduce women to each other so that they can build their own communities, their own friendships, and their own sisterhoods. Because again, for me, I know that sisterhood, friendships, and relationships have really carried me. And I just really want everyone to have that for themselves.
I love that. And you know how people say that businesses, the most successful business anyway, come from some sort of a personal pain point, something that you personally feel and properly resonate with.
Yeah.
And obviously, this sounds like something that you very, very resonate with on a personal level. Obviously, of course, it's a business and that, but it's something you're passionate about. It's not just something you've randomly sort of cobbled together and then thrown
No.
online. Nothing like that at all. And even if you take it back, we talk about when you're working in the corporate world and you're working whatever hours you're working, and then work on this on the side, and you weren't even thinking, I'm going to take it full time. You're just like, it'll be nice to do something on the side. You definitely have to be passionate and really care about what you're doing to
Yeah.
even think that, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess it's sort in a way. Then, do you feel that people that are wanting to start businesses should focus? Do you think people should focus more on what they care about, their passions, as opposed to like maybe looking for the next $1 million idea?
Yeah. I feel like you could make the next $1 million idea by focusing on your passion. I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. So I think the focus should be not even necessarily what you're passionate about, but like what can you help people? How can you help people? And for me, I knew that like my obsession with hair and hair products could help people because I was already helping people in my immediate circle. So I think the focus should always be like, how can you be of service and just get yourself in a position to serve? And then I think the opportunities kind of present themselves.
Cool. All right, let's do. When you started up TreasureTress, what challenges did you have when you were starting it up?
Everything. I yeah, everything. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know anyone. I genuinely had no contacts in the beauty industry whatsoever. Did not know a soul. So I had to build that network from scratch. Didn't know anything about logistics, had to learn that process from scratch. Didn't know anything about like packaging and ingredients. I knew a fair bit about ingredients because YouTube. Um, but everything about that, the day-to-day running of a business, I was literally learning it as I went along. So I can honestly say that I went in blind, no experience whatsoever, but just a determination to somehow figure it out.
Cool. Cool. Right. How did you overcome that? Was it just by learning, I guess? Like learning by doing?
Yeah,
Sounds like.
like learning by doing, podcasts, books, like that. I never wasted a train ride to work. Like you would never catch me on, well, maybe on an off day, but I would very rarely be sat on the train on Instagram. I always had my head in a book or I was listening to a podcast because I was aware that I just didn't have anything to rely upon. I didn't have the contacts, I didn't have a network, I didn't have the experience. So in my mind, while I was gaining the experience, I was also going to learn from the experiences of other people. And I think that's the beauty of podcasts, and that's the beauty of books, in that you can learn from other people's experiences without having to go through the experience yourself. So yeah, I was just driven to just learn, figure it out, learn from other people's mistakes. I think now I look back and I think, oh, I wish I had documented that process a bit better because it would have been great to look back on it now.
Mm,
But two, also just understood that it's so important to enjoy every phase of your business because there's always a problem. There's always a fire that needs to be put out. There's always ways that you can be better, but there's no final destination that you'll ever get to where you'll be like, yes, made it, because there's always something next. And as you do better, your expectations and your aspirations also grow. And that's like a gift and a curse. So the only thing that I wish I'd done a bit more then was just like enjoy having like a really manageable amount. I don't want this now, but a very manageable amount of customers that I could get to know really intimately and that could help me refine my product. Now I'm grateful for the growth of the brand and we will continue to grow. But I just wish that I like was a bit more patient with myself and celebrated my smaller wins more at the time.
for sure. And I agree with that, documenting things a bit more. That's something I'm trying to do. I don't take enough pictures. I don't take enough videos. I don't document enough things. And like, I feel like it's important, you
It
know.
is.
Yeah, in a couple of interviews I've done so far, people talk about, yeah, they documented everything and they were able to show all of that to people, and then that help them to get deals or to get this or get that. And then it's important, to
Mm-hmm.
document everything you're doing, even if it isn't necessary to grow your business, just for yourself to look back on
Yes.
and reflect upon and see
Yeah,
how far you've come along, along the way.
absolutely.
When you talk about, so with TreasureTress, when you started up by building up your community online,
Mm-hmm.
and on your train rides and all these any free time you had, you're consuming content, reading books, listening to podcasts, etc., trying to
Mm-hmm.
learn from other people's experiences and that. I'm also wondering, when you start up, even from when you started up until now, actually, did you one have some mentors that you were working with, like not necessarily like watching, or reading about, but like actively speaking with?
Mm.
And also, did you have like a community around yourself? I mean, you're building a community of natural hair lovers, but did you have a community of other like entrepreneurial people around
Mm.
you?
No. So your first question about mentors, when I launched TreasureTress, no. I don't think I even had like a corporate mentor at the time.
Mm,
I didn't have a mentor. I would say about year 2, I think I met one mentor. He introduced me to another. Year 2, I also actively sought out Sharmadine Reed and
mm,
like went to every event that she was speaking at, to the point where she was like, "You're following me.
mm,
What is it that you're building, and how can I help?" And I was
mm,
like, "Okay, well, I'm building this thing called TreasureTress, and it's a subscription box." And then she offered me some help. We done like, I would say for about a period of 6 months, we met like every other week. And then the 2 mentors that I have, I still have really good relationships with them now. They're stateside. But upon launching, no. When I say I had no network, I mean no one, no one whatsoever. But I always say that mentors are the best thing that you can do when seeking a mentor is the best thing you can do when starting your business, because they'll just help you fast forward and fast track you a lot faster than you can take yourself. So didn't have one to begin with. Definitely have some now, and I'm really grateful for them.
Cool. Well, you hustled anyway. It sounds like to
Yes.
find people over time.
Yes.
What sort of a mindset would you say one needs to thrive as an entrepreneur?
To thrive as an entrepreneur, I think a willingness to learn. Like you just have to be ready and willing to learn. Learn from others, learn from yourself, learn what's going on in your business, learn what's changing in your business. Like it's just a process of non-stop learning. Um, Decision making, obviously, you need to be pretty decent at making decisions, making calls on things. Um, and then I think you always need that creativity muscle where you can like spot an opportunity or like put things together that don't necessarily make sense to other people and create a completely new experience. Yeah, I think those 3, I would say.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Cool. And with TreasureTress now, so have you got a team that you're working with? And so you do. And then with your team, so how did you go about first of all growing your team? And
Hmm.
also, had you had any experience in leading or managing a team before this? And was that not something you just learned along the way as well?
No, I mean everything was from scratch. I do have a team. There's 8 of us in total. 6 of us work in the office, 2 virtually. Um, my team has transitioned and changed as the business has grown. But my first hires were from our customer base community and from my personal network. And then over time, I've begun to recruit externally. So I actually had a recruiter that I went to nursery with who was a subscriber and was like, "Hey, do you need any help finding talent?" And I was like, "Actually, I do recruiting for this role." And she's helped me source some good talent. So a few different ways. I don't feel like recruitment should be linear. And I do
Mm,
think there's beauty in having like people from different places come together to share a vision and to drive a vision forward.
yeah. Yeah. Cool. And nowadays, what does a day in the life of Jamelia look like?
Meetings. um, No, seriously, meetings, calls upon calls upon calls. I've gotten better at like scheduling deep work hours into my calendar where I say like, please, can you not put any meetings here? Um, and I'm just able to get stuff done. But mostly meetings. Yep.
Cool. Cool. All right. So I want to sidestep a little bit
Hmm.
and talk about the TT awards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with myself, yeah. So I used to have locks. I might not look like it, but I used to have
Oh,
locks. Yeah,
okay.
back in the day, actually, not that long ago, a few years ago. But I used to have locks. Um, cut them off now, clearly. Um, but at the time, I remember. So I used to find it very difficult to, because what I used to try and do was, first of all, I used to try and shop at black-owned shops to get like products for my hair.
Hmm.
And it used to be, it was my sister-in-law that was like recommending me all the different products, and then so I would try and shop black-owned shops. And first of all, I used to find it quite difficult to
Mm,
find the shops in the first place. Um, and second of all, sometimes the products weren't even that easy to source as well.
hmm.
So I'd have to like go online and then do whatever to get shit from somewhere. Or you go on Amazon, there's like one left or something like that. It wasn't
Yeah.
always easy, to find what I need to find. Um, so and also, so I know that if we're talking at the hair care market, black women account for 2%. 2% of the UK population, 10% of the
Hmm.
total beauty spend. I
Hmm.
believe the numbers are exactly. Um, but then if you look at those numbers, so they're spending disproportionately above what they're representing in the population. Um, but then the underserved, one, because you don't have maybe enough black-owned shops, and two, they aren't able to find the products that you need. So
Hmm.
TreasureTress clearly, it feels like a very clear gap in that space. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Um, when it comes to the TT Awards now, can you talk a bit about what the motivation was behind starting that? I guess what's the driving force behind starting that, and what it is actually for people that don't know.
Sure. So the TT Awards is an award ceremony to celebrate the Black Beauty vote, which essentially highlights and amplifies the brands that serve the Black community well, in particular Black women, and cater to our skin and our hair in a way that's positive, uplifting, and consistent. Typically, in the award ceremonies, there's like one category allocated to Black beauty, and that covers everything from like foot cream to hair oil. And for us, we just thought, like, why isn't there an award ceremony that highlights the best shampoo, the best conditioner, the best leave-in conditioner, all of the categories that fulfill our beauty needs for and by Black women? So our votes, all of the products are voted for by our community. And we recently, last week actually, released a docufilm to announce the winning brands that won in each category that they showed up in. So we were going back and forth and toying with, do we have a actual awards ceremony? And every time we made one step forward with it, there was another lockdown, and we were like, okay, cool, this isn't going to work. Let's do something that feels like a creative piece. Let's merge it with storytelling about everyday Black women that we really care about. Because as much as I really care about beauty, I'm absolutely obsessed with products. I care a lot about Black women and making sure that our voices and our stories are heard, as do my team. So we all agreed that the best format to present something that was meaningful and authentic to us as a brand while we uplift the other brands is to merge the two through a docufilm. So you can actually look it up on YouTube. It's literally called the TT Awards. The TT stands for top tier, because we're highlighting the top tier products in every category and the top tier brands. But it just felt like a really authentic and genuine way that we could give a stamp of approval to the brands that we felt like were doing us justice and were seeing us and were showing up for us. And even more important now, because when it was BLM, everyone had so much to say, everyone was so passionate about it, but a few years later, it's not as much of a priority. So it's kind of to show that we're here to stay, we're not going anywhere, and our expectations for brands remains the same. Like, keep that same energy that you had then, continue to cater to Black women, and make sure that we're able to have uplifting and luxurious shopping experiences like everyone else.
It sounds like it's another example of you like highlighting a pain point.
Hmm.
Highlighting something that you literally see is wrong. Like they had one category and that would cover everything.
Hmm.
Um, which just sounds ridiculous when you put it like that.
Hmm.
Um, it's like highlighting a personal pain point, and okay, what could we do? And then I can just do this and do that, and then provide your own sort of a solution for your community or people that look like yourself.
Yeah.
People that, yeah. So I think that's definitely another example of that. And also we talk about the BLM piece as well is interesting. So that's like, it's sort of like a common theme with a lot of people I've spoken with so far in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I've spoken to people from all sorts of industries, and
Hmm.
some people have said that, oh, like when BLM, when the George Floyd murder happened, and the BLM movement was, at its peak a couple of years ago, they were getting loads of brands and whatever reaching out to them. Now it's
Hmm.
dried up.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people say stuff like, at the time you had loads of people reaching out to them to have a conversation. I mean, people that knew they existed and had never ever tried to talk to them, but now they want to talk and
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And again, it's dried up.
Yep.
And that seems to be a common theme that I'm hearing with a lot of people.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of energy back then, but it's dried up a lot now. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's been your experience as well. Like you've had people reach out or whatever, and then now it's slowed down again.
I think for us it was a unique experience because we had been reaching out to brands actively as part of our subscription service. But I think brands became a lot more eager and a lot more responsive during that phase because it was like, oh yeah, actually, like we really need to speak to Black women authentically. We want to cater to this audience. We just want to do something. And then, yeah, I've been quite disappointed with quite a few brands recently in that they felt like they ticked that box and now they're ready to move on to the next initiative. I don't think they quite understand that it's an ongoing thing. It's not just a one and done thing. Like this is actually changing your culture. It's diversifying your workforce, it's diversifying the products that you create, it's making sure that your marketing is representative, it's making sure that you show up in grassroots initiatives and you show up in community. So there's still a lot to be done.
Yeah, it's a lot more than lip service. It's a lot more
Yes.
than putting out a black square on social media because that's so
Mm,
easy.
yeah.
Anyone can put up a black square on social media and not do anything about it
Yeah.
afterwards and be like, "Yes, I'm an ally." But I don't, in my opinion, I don't think that's what allyship looks like. Anyways, I
No, it
mean,
doesn't.
that's like literally the bare minimum. You cannot do less than that
Hmm.
and then call yourself an ally.
No, it's true.
Um, and allyship means doing something more tangible, like
Hmm.
do something more tangible. Put your money where your mouth is, or in some way, shape, or form, or doing even if it's not money, it's time, it's something. But doing something,
Resources, anything.
resources, anything, contacts, connections, whatever. But doing something way more tangible, and then cool. That's more allyship than putting up a square on social media.
Hmm.
Definitely. I want to talk about the teen experience as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is something you started off. We said with Simone.
Hmm.
Yeah, talk a bit about that, what that's been like, and what the motivation was behind starting that as well.
The teen experience is like, yeah, it's something that is so ironic. When we started the teen experience, the idea was to create a space for Black and mixed race teen girls that they could just go, meet each other, learn new skills. Because growing up, I always had youth clubs, and that was like a really big part of my childhood. But obviously now youth clubs are all defunded.
Mm.
There's not any around. Like if you're a young person growing up, I just don't understand where you go. Like, do you go outside or do you just spend all of your time indoors and online? So I was already doing something called Mummy and Me afternoon teas for TreasureTress, and I was already going to like lots of natural hair events for my age group, like early 20s, um, mid 20s, and women in their 30s also attending. But I realized that there was this void again in the middle of the teens. Like they were too young to come to the natural hair events, or they would have felt out of place. But then equally, they were far too old to be at the Mummy and Me afternoon teas. So I thought something has to be done to cater to them and to give them a place to go connect, meet each other, and just build their own community. So I started reaching out to my contacts in the natural hair industry, like, hey, running these workshops, would love for you to present one. Um, Pretty much everyone said yes. But Simone took it one step further and was like, yeah, I don't want to just like present, I want to help you build it. Like, I really want to make sure that this comes to life. So we joined forces then and got some brands on board and just created a space for teens. Um, Alongside the brands, we connected with a lot of women in our network, so like videographers, photographers, workshop leads. And the ironic thing is that all the time that we thought we were teaching the teens, everyone's now come back and said, "Do you know what? I learned so much from the teens. It was one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. Like it was such a sacred space." I used the past tense because we weren't able to maintain it throughout lockdown because we did do one virtual teen experience, but I don't think anything compares to having them in real life. So
Mm.
we're excited to bring it back this year. We've got a brunch coming up soon. But yeah, the teen experience was just like pure passion. And again, just filling that void of what would younger Jamelia have wanted? What would she have really appreciated? And then just creating that. So we've covered everything from like creating a CV, purchasing a house, self defense, hair, makeup, everything. Our next topic is going to be friendships, which is going to be very juicy. Um,
Sounds like it.
but yeah, it's just something that some work that we're all really, really proud of.
That's a very practical stuff as well. Stuff they don't teach you in school, which they should.
That was
They,
that was the
they,
idea.
they don't teach you this in school.
Yes.
Uh, you sound like a proper go-getter. Someone that sees something and cool. I'm just going to go and do it without even. Because me, I guess, in a sense, I do have that side of me, but then I also have a perfectionist side of me, which
Mm,
I'm like, I need to learn it all
mm,
before I go and start. But you sound like I'm a go-getter. I see it, cool. I'm going to go and do it. Have you
yeah.
always been like that?
I struggle with that like perfectionism piece as well. But anytime I'm getting too much like that, I just tell myself that I'm procrastinating and that done is better than perfect. So there's even stuff that like I'll give to someone else to do, it will come out and I'll be like, not 100% on it, but I'm like, really just leave it. Like just let it go out in the world because at least it is out in the world and done is better than perfect. So I can completely relate. Like when you want something done, you want it done perfectly, you want it to be 100% professional, but sometimes you just have to let it go out into the world because there's someone that needs it and there's someone that's waiting for it. And when they see it, they're not going to worry about like the text being misaligned or it missing a
Mm.
border or it not being the perfect color scheme. I think yeah, the main thing is that you deliver the message. So yeah, I struggle. I like go in between the two. Sometimes I'm like, I go through periods where I'm like, no, I just want to get everything organized and like get everything perfect. And then I have the other periods where I'm like, something's missing. Let me create it.
That's it. You know what you said there about like when you put it out into the world, and then whoever's there to see whatever you put out in the world isn't going to necessarily care about maybe a text being slightly misaligned or whatever. And it's so true because with me, like I definitely feel like I'm a perfectionist, yeah, in some sense, and I'll take forever to make sure it's perfect before I put something out there. And then people will look at the people won't even clock. People,
Hmm.
you put all this time into trying to make it look perfect. People won't even clock all the work you've done.
Yes.
So everything that maybe because when you're the creator, you can see everything.
Hmm.
Everybody else isn't looking at it the same way. They're more interested in the value, the message, whatever it is,
Yes.
not it being the perfect color. Like
Yeah.
that.
And I think you also have to allow yourself for the fact that like things take time. So I had a meeting today with a brand that was like one of the first brands that I ever reached out to years ago when I was starting TreasureTress. And it was actually Rachel from Afrocentrics, and she was saying like, "Oh, well done, Jamelia. Like, I remember when you first approached us, you had this really clear vision about up elevating experiences for Black women, creating safe spaces, making them feel special when they receive your boxes, making product discovery desirable and exciting again." And she was like, "I really think you've done that." But remember, this is 6 years after I started.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
I didn't get that feedback straight away, but it doesn't matter. Like the work that I was doing early on led me to the point where I'm able to have conversations and people can say, do you know what you wanted to build, you are actually building. When I saw TT Awards, I thought this is exactly what we need. So I think it's an understanding that good things also take time. I think initially get the idea out there, see if people want it, see if you can find your people who want to support what you're doing, and then just continue to build and perfect from there. But I don't think we can let perfectionism hold us back altogether.
For sure, for sure. Rachel, I've met Rachel before, some time back at networking events. Lovely woman, actually.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, proper cool. Got good energy from her, and
Yes.
I definitely agree with what you're saying. Yeah, you just put it out there. Got to put your thing out there, like, and let the people you're building it for tell you about it, and whether they
Hmm.
like it or not. And then from there, you can go back and if you need to tweak things, cool. But the border being perfectly aligned isn't gonna make or break at all.
Definitely not.
At all. And good things take time for sure, especially in
Yeah.
this what's it like, this immediate gratification sort of culture we live in right now. It's
Hmm.
hard for people to grasp, or it's hard for people to really take in. But good things take time. Like you said, you've been working your business for 6 years now, and you're getting the feedback 6 years after. But you
Hmm.
never know who's looking at what you're doing as well.
Yeah.
You can
And
be
I think,
building. Oh, sorry, go on.
no, continue. I
No,
was,
I was just gonna say you can be building for like 6 years or whatever. You can build for a long time. Someone could be watching your entire journey. You could have 10 followers for six
mm,
years. And then after, a period of time, the right person could be watching and that can be your big break or whatever.
yes, absolutely. I think that's key, and I can definitely attest to the fact that you never know who's watching. I've gone into meetings with companies that I didn't think they knew who TreasureTress was. I thought that I was pitching brand new, and there's a Black woman that's in the room that's like, Jamelia, I've been following your journey for years. I think you're doing amazing. And it's like, what? I didn't even know. I didn't have a clue. But there's people that are out there secretly rooting for you. Equally, there's critiques everywhere, right? There's critics everywhere.
Always
So
haters.
I mean, there's always going to be someone that says, "Oh, this wasn't as I thought it was going to be. It could be better." But I think the good thing is that they're telling you how to improve what you're doing. They're telling you how to improve your business. They might not use the language that you want, but they're
Yeah.
like giving you key tips and tricks. Like we're in the process of releasing tickets for another part of the For Black Girls Who Can't series. And the first thing that we done was revert back to the feedback that we got for the first one. The first one was our first, I think that was one of our first virtual events. So it wasn't smooth. Like the tech wasn't clean, but we got there eventually.
Mm.
And people left learning how to braid, which was the key. But that was our first point of, cool, okay, cool. Let's see what the women who had the harshest feedback says, and then let's use that as the basis for how we build the next one so that we don't make the same mistake twice. So put it out there. It's not going to be perfect, but you're going to figure it out, and you're going to use your feedback to help you figure it out. It's not personal.
For real, for real. And you know, when you talk about TreasureTress, yeah, you talk about being, well, in a sense, more than a business. It's a sisterhood, it's a community.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you talk about what TT Awards means to you, and also even the teen experience, like when you start talking about it, you're like big smile on your face, like, yeah, this is what it is, this is what we're doing, blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah, all of these things. Would you say that you've found your purpose? And if so, how do you feel other people can go about finding their purpose?
I feel like, yeah, I feel like I know what work I'm meant to do in the world, but I also expect that it will continue to unfold. So I would say when I first started TreasureTress, I thought it was hair, and then now I've learned actually it's not really hair. It's actually more like women and connecting people and education. And now I'm very much like it's definitely education and like elevation of Black women that I think is my real work in the world. And one thing that I do know for sure is that we shouldn't let job titles define what our work is in the world because it can evolve, it can transform over time. I think for anyone that's like trying to find their purpose, I think it's ultimately about just paying attention to your passions. I think it's so easy to see someone else's journey and someone else's professional success and be like, that's what success looks like. That's what I have to do. I have to emulate that. But if you are passionate about collecting bugs, then collect bugs, celebrate it, and find people that also collect bugs and like just do your work there. I think you just have to follow what you're passionate about and just pay attention to it, honor it, and like water it. Like you actually find your passion and also invest in it.
For real.
So yeah, and I think purpose is something that I've always been really keen on. At some points, I was quite frustrated and impatient. Like I just want to know what my purpose is. Like why am I here? But again, I think it continues to unfold. I thought that all that I cared about was products and hair, which is true, but it's part of a bigger purpose. And I think that's what life's about, like just seeing the constant unfoldment of like different layers of yourself and different layers of the work that you're supposed to do.
So when did you sort of come to this realization then, like this place of maybe peace with where you are now with regards to your purpose?
Not sure I'd use peace as a word because I'm quite a restless, impatient person. I don't think my husband would use the word peace. But I think I got to a place where I had respect for what my work could be. I think it was after every event, I would like sit and think like, what is this feeling that I can feel? Like, why do I feel so fulfilled? And don't get me wrong, I love the next deep conditioning mask as much as the next. I love deep conditioning mask as much as the next product junkie, but like, are deep conditioning masks like giving me butterflies and like goosebumps? No, I like using them. I
Mhm.
really enjoy trying them. I like comparing them, but the only time that I get like butterfly and goosebumps are like when I hear women telling their stories, connecting, like laughing, having a good time, and just feeling seen and creating spaces where women feel seen and heard where they're otherwise not. So yeah, I think it was our events. I used to just think like, why do I feel so emotional? Like, why do I feel so excited? Why do I feel so fired up? And it was because we were creating experiences that we knew we needed and other women were benefiting from it.
That's sick. Love that. Love that. And I guess, yeah, it just goes full circle back towards like just working, it's your passion, work on whatever you're passionate about. Like
Hmm.
tried to work on things in the past where I'm literally just trying to make a quick buck. So
Mm,
I'm trying to start up any kind of business that I think, okay, I can make a quick buck. And I'm a very like I said, I'm an Aquarius, and we think we dream in it. But
Mm,
if I'm working on something, I'm like, if my heart ain't in it, I literally cannot motivate myself to do it, no matter how big the buck can be in the future.
mm.
So I'm struggling like to really motivate myself to do it.
I think
Um,
that's what's funny about life though, because some people literally create businesses for profit and they do really well and they're really successful. But I think it goes back to that thing of like what drives you and what pushes you in life. Because some people are like overwhelmingly passionate about material things, and it might fulfill them, it might not. Like, who are we to judge? But for some people that is their driving force. And for those people, as you said, like thinking of like what's the next big business, like what phone cases can I sell to make money, like that is what they're passionate about. But I think that's where we're also different, in that you've just said that wasn't it for you. Like, you knew that you needed to do something slightly different on a slightly different wavelength to make you feel fulfilled. And yeah, I think that's the beauty of life, being able to appreciate both of them.
for real, for yeah, purpose is subjective. It's on an individual
Yeah.
basis. Like what someone, who's to say what's right and what's wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's passionate about doing whatever, selling like say phone cases or collecting bugs,
Yeah.
whatever they're doing. Cool, go and do your thing. If that's what makes you happy,
Yeah.
go and do your thing, and then do whatever, build your community, do whatever. Like it is what it is. As long as you're
Hmm.
happy, you know what I'm saying? You're
Yeah,
not hurting anybody else, then that's good.
it's the main thing.
Yeah, for real. All right. So I want to reflect back on your journey. Yeah.
Hmm.
What would you say has been your highest high and your lowest low so far?
Oh gosh. Highest high. Ooh, that's a hard one. It would have to be. Do you know what? It's actually, well, it definitely has to be one of our pop-up shops, because they are like the central point, or like it's like the annual reminder of why we even bother to do the work that we do. Like, why we're always having to be the voice of Black women, why we're always having to have difficult meetings, why we're having to have difficult conversations. At that point, it's like, do you know what? It was worth it, because these Black women are in a space where they shop, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel catered to, and they feel valued. That is worth it. I would say, in addition to that, one of my other highs would be having conversations where a woman has said to me like, "Oh, Jamelia, when you said X, it really helped me do Y." Because although I haven't documented my journey entirely how I would have liked to, I try to, as much as possible, through my podcast or just through captions, like share like where I am on my journey and what lessons I'm learning. So if at any point someone's ever said to me like, "Thank you for sharing X, it helped me with Y," that is always a highlight. And then I think, as far as like lows, um, where do I start? One of my lowest lows was December, I think it was 2019. We had just received a shipment of products, and we had begun packing, and we had packed about 1,000 boxes already, when we were told that those products couldn't be used because there was an ingredient in there that was banned in the UK.
Oh
So we
man.
had to like there were two products from that brand in each box. So we had to unpack all of those boxes, source replacement products, dispose of those products. But this was like, I think this was like the 19th of December or something. So we were on the
Mm.
doorstep of Christmas Day. We needed to get them out, otherwise people wouldn't get them in time for Christmas. They were already late. It was just a nightmare. And I think then the following week, my warehouse manager said that the stress was too much, and she was thinking that maybe the role wasn't for her. And I was like, oh, this can't all be happening in the space of like 3 days.
Oh
This
man.
is
Yeah.
too much. So that time definitely sticks out as a moment where things just felt very on top, and like, no, how many things can go wrong in like a matter of days?
That's nuts. That is nuts. And that's, I guess that's one of those things that you don't hear about in entrepreneurship, like stuff like that. 'Cause that sounds hella stressful,
Yeah,
like throughout Christmas period as well.
to be honest, saying it now, it might sound to someone like, oh, is that it? But when you think about the fact that like thousands of women have trusted you with their money to send them a box full of products, you can't deliver a half empty box of products. Not to mention, everyone's already on Christmas holiday. So how the hell are you finding products to replace those? Not to mention, Royal Mail move mad on the best of days. So where's the
Mm.
confidence that people are going to get the Christmas presents that they've bought for people that they love? I think for me, it's always keeping in mind, like, what impact does this have on the customer? Like, it's not okay to have paid X and not receive Y. Um, so it might sound small, but to me, it felt like a huge, well, it always feels like a huge responsibility to make sure that we give people what they deserve, and in particular, Black women what they deserve, because no one else is.
Well, on the bright side, it's 2022 and we're still here. So
Yes.
yeah, we got through.
Yes.
Uh, uh, what advice would you give to somebody that's trying to start their own business?
Just do it. Like, it sounds corny, but put your idea out there. Like the things that we've already said, put your idea out there, test it, find your people, find your tribe. Um, be open to learning. You just have to be ready and willing to learn from others, but also push your ego aside. I haven't seen it as much anymore, but there used to be this like very big culture of like boss this, boss be this. Like everyone just wanted to be the founder, the starter, the owner, the CEO. And I think when you're starting, you should always go for experience. Like get experience under your belt, because you might learn some of the best things working underneath someone that does what you want to do. And you might have the best career of your life also working on the team of someone that does what you want to do. So I think it's like being open to different experiences, and again, trying until you find what works, and also in that process learning what you don't like and what doesn't work for you.
Cool, that's perfect. And last question before going to quickfire.
Hmm.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Um, what's funny is my mum always said, like, you're probably going to be a teacher, because my mum was a teacher, I'm a teacher, and I was always like, maybe it's like the rebellious side of me, but I was always like, no, I'm not being a teacher, I'm going to do something completely different. And now that I look at it, I'm like, do you know what? I feel most fulfilled when I'm teaching, and like when I'm sharing my knowledge. So yeah, I want to be known for like the lady who showed other Black women how it's done, or like how to do it in practical ways, rather than like, yeah, I just want to like demystify the business world for Black women and just help Black women elevate their lives in a way that's easy to understand, rather than like trying to claw through and navigate through the overwhelming amount of information out there.
That's it. Love that. Perfect. Okay, so let's go into quickfire. Yeah. Let me get them up. Cool. So I've got 10 questions,
Mm-hmm.
20 seconds per question. Well, I'm not going to time it anyways. First few questions are a bit easier. Last few, I feel, get a bit more
Okay.
techie. Well, just whatever comes to your head first, you can just
Oh
shout that
dear.
out. Cool. All right, good to go.
Yep.
All right. First question. What's your favorite movie?
Love and basketball.
Cool. Second, what's your favorite book?
Conversations with God.
All right. Number three, name a song that you can never get bored of.
Oh, anything from Lauren Hill's album,
Miseducation of Lauryn Hill,
Miseducation of Lauren Hill.
legendary album. All right. Fourth, if you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would you pick?
Pizza.
Cool. Next, how do you start your day?
Meditation.
All right. Name three people that inspire you.
Ooh. My mum. I mean, this is not one person, but I'm going to group them together. My nieces,
Cool.
because I think children are absolutely incredible and amazing. The way they navigate the world is just really interesting. My last one, Beyonce.
Cool.
Mm.
All right. What's the best advice that you've ever received?
Never take advice from someone you wouldn't exchange places with.
Oh, perfect. All right. If you were to dedicate the rest of your life to one charitable cause, what would you pick?
Does it have to be an existing charity, I'm assuming?
No, no, it can be any kind of charitable cause.
Um, I feel like any cause that makes education accessible to everyone. So I get, yeah, anything to do with the educational system, schools, and resources. I would say that.
All right. Perfect. Well, on the last two, yeah.
Hmm.
What's the kindest thing that someone has ever done for you?
Just helped without me saying that I needed help, but just seeing what needs to be done and doing it for me.
Perfect. All right. And last one, what's one thing people don't know about you?
Um, Bit of a hard one because I guess they will now. Um, oh, I don't know.
It can be like, it can be maybe people around you might know it, but like people that follow your Instagram might not know it.
My mind has gone absolutely blank. What do people
Cool.
usually say?
All sorts of stuff. What was the last one? The
Um,
last one someone said was that they're a computer geek, something like that. But, I've had a few people say that they're born with extra fingers, like like a sixth finger coming out. Yeah.
okay. Um, this is so random, but it's the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
It's very, yeah, it's just mad. Um, it's so random. It's not going to be of value, but I'll share it anyway. I
Cool.
really hate water. Like I would love washing my hair, but I hate the sensation of water being splashed in my face. And for that reason, I really don't like swimming. I only like swimming underwater, which is a complete contradiction.
You don't like swimming, but I don't like swimming. Ah,
Yeah,
cool.
because I don't like, when you're
Yeah.
swimming over water and you're like splashing in the waters, like I
Yeah.
actually feel
Yeah.
like I'm suffocating. So
Wow.
I have to either go all the way in and under, or I just sit on the side and get my feet wet.
That's cool. Yeah, you've done it. That's perfect. See, here I was thinking you were gonna say like, I don't know, a favorite sport or something like that. But
Yeah, I
cool.
guess the only other thing, well, that I guess I could have said I used to be a big tomboy because I grew up with brothers and I used to really like football. But yeah, I go
Cool.
to the gym now, so it's kind of obvious. But yeah,
Cool. That's all good. All right, perfect. That's that, man. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you coming through today and sharing all your gems, speaking about your journey and yeah, just everything. Like I really appreciate it. Um, before you wrap up, have you got any closing remarks?
oh, this is very formal. I would say if you haven't already, please check out the TT Awards on YouTube. You can literally just find us on YouTube at TreasureTress, and the video is called the TT Awards docu-film. Watch it while you're washing your hair, while you're cleaning, or while you're just chilling. It's about 40 minutes long, but it's got some really interesting stories about some incredible Black women doing incredible work. Um, Other than that, follow TreasureTress for all updates. Keep an eye on our For Black Girls Who Can't series, which is continuing, and the Teen Experience for our next series of brunches and workshops.
Perfect. All right, people. That was that. Thank you so much for coming to A Thousand Voices once again. Really appreciate your time this evening. This
Thank
was A
you.
Thousand Voices podcast. That was Jamelia Donaldson of TreasureTress, and we're out.
Wonderful.